I normally edit my videos using DaVinci Resolve, a professional grade editing suite which I'm using the free version of, running on reasonably high spec hardware. And this works pretty well for me, but I wondered how low I could go in terms of spec and price and still get something that works for editing video content for upload to YouTube. There are a few options for doing this, including but not limited to Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi Zero is a very cheap computer. It can run Linux, for which there are a number of free video editing solutions available. Of course, the Pi Zero is just a bare board, so you would at least need to buy a keyboard, micro SD card and some cables and other stuff. Another option is second-hand kit. With a little more money in the pot, it's possible to pick up an old desktop PC or laptop, and probably to get best performance out of the older hardware, run a lightweight Linux OS on it. There might also be some merit in looking at older tablets and maybe even smartphones. And there are, no doubt, other options I haven't even thought of here, so be sure to let me know your ideas about that in the comments. But one other option that sprang to my mind was these cheap little Android TV boxes that seem to be everywhere. So that's the option we're going to explore in a little more depth today. This is actually my second attempt at this project. I'll tell you briefly about the first and why it was a complete flop. I went for the absolute cheapest Android TV box I could find, the MeCool M8S Plus, which I bought for a little over £15. That's under $20 US on AliExpress. It turned up, and I set it up in earnest using an old spare keyboard and mouse I had lying around, but ultimately it was just unusable. It booted okay, and it was possible to navigate the menu, but none of the apps worked properly. It wouldn't run the Google Play Store, I couldn't sideload APKs, and it had a tendency to just lock up and stop responding. With some of these devices you can boot an alternative Linux-based OS called Armbian, but not with this one. It really was a case of you get what you pay for. The MeCool M8S Plus is junk. It's not even usable for its fully intended purpose. I scrapped that idea for a month or two, then I came back to it. This time we'll spend a little bit more money, but I want something that has everything I need to plug into a TV and start using. So I started looking around the £30 price point, twice my previous budget, but I wanted better spec and an included keyboard and mouse. I settled on this one, the Transpeed X88 Pro, which I got from AliExpress. Lots of options, so I picked the mid-range spec with a Bluetooth keyboard remote. My hopes were not high for any kind of quality, but maybe we'll get something usable. Okay, so only about a week later, and here is my package. And this came from the UK, which is peculiar, but it has got a customs declaration on it, so I assume that's probably come out of a bonded warehouse in the UK, maybe? I don't know. Product name, sound system, value $10. So it's got a fraudulent customs declaration on it, which is fun. Okay, the keyboard and the device itself. So, inside the box, well, that's the little unit itself. We'll have a look at that in a moment. We've got the remote control, what looks like an HDMI cable. I'll just check that. Yep, HDMI cable. And a UK power adapter. Oh, and a user manual. Not too bad actually, fairly simple. But it's an Android device, it's going to work very much like every other Android device. So, the unit itself, shiny printed plastic top, but that's not what you want to see. So we've got DC in, SPDIF, digital out, LAN, HDMI, and an AV jack. Then we've got a micro SD card slot, USB, what looks like it could be USB 3 because it's blue, and probably USB 2, which is not blue. Android player, model X88 Pro 10. Okay, and then the keyboard. This, again, with its own little instruction sheet. Feels quite plasticky, but I don't think there's really anything else to expect for this kind of price. Keys are nice and clicky. They're going to be little dome type keys, I imagine. Little metal domes. But they've got a nice positive clickiness to them, so assuming that actually does work. Not a terrible keyboard. Mouse pad there. probably not very usable gamepad type controls there. Very mushy and rubbery feeling. But yeah, the buttons feel alright. Switch off on and a little USB. I wonder if that's just for charging or if that's... I wonder if this can function as a USB keyboard. That would be interesting. And then inside we've got the little Bluetooth receiver and space for 2 AAA batteries. Cool, okay. Remote control, very, very lightweight. And again, space for 2 AAAs. So where's the, I suppose the IR receiver's probably somewhere inside there. Okay, well, the plan is that we're going to get this set up, get it plugged into a screen, and then I'm going to try to use it for some sort of productivity type activity. Okay, so here's the general plan. Let's put batteries in these remotes. We'll put the USB dongle for that keyboard into the USB 2 slot there. HDMI into my, this is the monitor from my editing rig. I could have used the TV, I suppose. Power will get into there. And yeah, there's a light on. Oh, and there's a display that says load. And we should, well, we got a loading screen, splash screen, that's a good sign. Okay, and I can navigate with this, so that's good. We'll have English. Screen looks okay. I'll connect it to my Wi-Fi. Next. Okay, well, we seem to be in business. Oh, looks like there's an update version, so okay, let's give that a chance. I apologise for the mode of showing you this. I can't actually show you the screen straight as a capture, but perhaps we'll solve that later in the video. So let's see what we can do with this. So can we visit YouTube on it? I don't know whether we're going to get any sound because I don't think there's speakers in this screen. Seems to be okay. Let's have a look and see what it looks like. Rendering 4K video. It's not bad. Not signed in or anything like that. I'm not going to sign in to YouTube just yet until I get a little bit of confidence that this thing hasn't got anything weird running on it. Once I've satisfied myself that this is just a very generic Android box, I might be inclined to put one of my other accounts in so I can sign into YouTube. Okay, can we visit the App Store? Play Store, and when I tried this with a much cheaper box, yeah, it wouldn't even run, but this one looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to sign in, going to see if I can install a video editing app, and then let's see if we can actually edit a video on this set-top box. Well, I hoped I was going to be able to use Cyberlink Power Director on it, mainly because I used the desktop version of that before switching to DaVinci Resolve. So it might have been a shallower learning curve, but nope. Power Director needs external storage to work properly, and for some reason on this device that's a problem. I dug out a spare micro SD card, which would be sort of breaking my own criteria for this challenge anyway, but nope, it doesn't seem like it'll work. It says it's ejected safely as soon as I plug it in. I tried a few other different cards of various brands and sizes, and the same thing happened every time. I guess this might be a bug in the device firmware. So I looked at a few other Android video editing apps, and it seems like they're all either copies of each other or copies of something that I'm not familiar with. Anyway, I went with something called UCut. I also had problems with it recognizing my phone as external storage. Most likely something related to the problem with micro SD cards, so getting my raw footage from my phone onto the device was a bit of a pain. I resorted to uploading it to OneDrive from the phone, then downloading it on the device. Not comfortable, but it worked. The little Bluetooth keyboard remote is supposed to be used handheld like this, but I have mobility issues in my thumbs, and anyway, I'm working at a desk, so I put it down and pecked at it with 2 fingers, like this. It feels cheap and clicky, but you know what? It's actually pretty good. No missed key presses, and that clickiness went from annoying to useful tactile feedback in a very short time. Obviously a full-size keyboard and mouse would be more efficient, and those could be plugged in here if desired, but this is certainly usable enough for this exercise. I did stick some little rubber feet on the bottom to stop it sliding around on the desk. It even has a backlight that's not only not terrible, but it's off by default, so it's not annoying either. There's no headphone jack, but if you plug it into a TV or monitor with speakers or a headphone output, it works with that. The sound recording apps I tried were not very stable, so I just recorded the voice parts of this video on my phone. So, can you edit a video for YouTube on this device? Well, in case you haven't already guessed, the video you're now watching was actually edited and rendered on this little Android TV box. So yes, you absolutely can, if you need to. Was it an enjoyable experience? Absolutely not. It was pretty painful. A little of that is probably unfamiliarity with the editing software, and maybe a little more of it is just the simple shock of stepping down from DaVinci Resolve, where everything's precise and familiar. But for the most part, it's because of the limitations of this environment. It's clunky, it's uncomfortable, it's not super responsive, and sometimes it's a bit unstable. But it does work, and if this was the only way I could make videos, I'd probably try a bit harder. I'm pretty glad it isn't. So yeah, I think the best way to sum up the whole editing experience is mildly painful and very irritating. It's just very difficult to do precise cuts in any of these Android apps. There are effects and transitions and all sorts of things available, but applying them with any kind of precision and care is really difficult. I can't wait to get back to DaVinci Resolve. Before we sum up, we'll just have a look at some info from CPU-X on the hardware. So in summary, the mission was a success. It is possible with a budget of just £30 to get kit that, together with the TV and smartphone you probably already have, is sufficient to be able to edit a video for YouTube. Would I recommend it? No, not if you have better options available. Will I be doing it again? Not if I can help it. But I thought this was an interesting little experiment anyway, and I hope you did too. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.